Patience, and I don't like to use the word tolerance, but sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
And it's not just with the city, it's also with the client. Because most clients, they don't understand what I have to do, why I have to do it, what it takes to get done.
The Gilgo Beach serial killings were a series of killings between 1996 and 2011, in which the remains of 11 people were found in Gilgo Beach, located on the south shore of Long Island, New York. Most of the known victims were sex workers who advertised on Craigslist. The victims' remains were found over a period of months in 2010 and 2011, after the disappearances of Shannon Gilbert resulted in a police search of the area along Ocean Parkway, near the remote beach towns of Oak Beach and Gilgo. The remains of 4 victims, designated as the Gilgo 4, were found within a quarter of a mile of each other near Gilgo Beach in December 2010. In July 2023, Rex Heuermann, a resident of Massapequa Park on Long Island, was arrested in Midtown Manhattan and charged in the murders of 3 of the Gilgo 4 victims, with the 4th being announced in January of 2024. Welcome to How to Deal. You true crime junkies out there, make sure you like the vid, sub to the page, and tell your detective friends to subscribe as well. Now let's get started with this ongoing case. On December 11, 2010, 7 months have gone by after the disappearance of Shannon Gilbert, a sex worker who frantically called the cops, believing someone was after her after she serviced a gentleman. The recorded 911 calls gave no info on what happened or where she might have ran off to, but this was the precursor needed to discover a literal graveyard of bodies, found hundreds of feet from each other. On said date, police dogs were sniffing out marsh areas near roadways when the dogs started barking. They sniffed out a body not belonging to Shannon, but to Melissa Barthelemy, a 24-year-old from the Bronx who went missing in July 2009, who operated as a sex worker through Craigslist. Within the same week, 3 more bodies were found just hundreds of feet away from each other. The other bodies discovered were those of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, a 25-year-old missing since July 2007, Megan Waterman, a 22-year-old who's been missing since June 2010, and Amber Costello, a 24-year-old who was missing since September of the same year. All women were sex workers who advertised on Craigslist, and all were petite women ranging from 4'10" to 5'5". They each were buried in a similar fashion, wrapped in a camouflage burlap bag. These women were known as the Gilgo 4. Over a dozen other bodies were discovered along this route, but these 4 in particular would be traced back to one individual, Rex Heuermann. At the time, technology wasn't as advanced as it is today. Other people were looked at as suspects, including John Biltroff, a murderer who lived in the area and was already convicted of murdering 2 other sex workers, and former police chief James Burke, who had previous encounters with sex workers himself. He was arrested in 2015 for assaulting a suspect who broke into his car and stole cigars, sex toys, and a bunch of porn. A cover-up for this was exposed, even landing the DA in prison. Not to mention, he was reported to have blocked FBI involvement in the Gilgo Beach serial killer cases for years. With the chief of police being investigated for this, and other interagency frictions and failures to cooperate in law enforcement, this definitely hindered the investigation for years. At the time, Melissa's younger sister was receiving a series of vulgar and insulting calls from a man who may have been the killer. Using Melissa's cell phone, the caller asked if she was a whore just like her sister. The caller even admitted to killing Melissa. These calls were traced to 2 locations, one in Midtown Manhattan and the other from Massapequa, Long Island. Authorities narrowed down those records from thousands to a handful of people. Detectives focused on those who matched the physical description given by a waitress, who also seen the suspect driving in a green Avalanche truck. Investigators found Rex Heuermann. Rex was an older man. He was married with children and lived in Massapequa Park, Long Island. He was an architect who started his own firm in Midtown Manhattan. Both locations was near those cell phone towers that picked up the calls. Knowing that he drives a green truck, they still needed more evidence on him. Police followed him and his family covertly, waiting for him to slip up. After throwing away a box of pizza he was eating for lunch, detectives swooped in and grabbed it to look for DNA evidence. Fortunately, some hair was found in the box belonging to him and his wife. The hair sample matched the same hair that was found on the tape used to tape up the women and on the burlap bag. On July 13, 2023, the 59-year-old architect was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. His home was raided and his computers, hard drives, and cell phones were confiscated. He would use burner phones to contact these sex workers, send photos, and conduct his second life under the alias Andrew Roberts. His Google searches was disgusting. Thousands of searches was related to finding sex workers, looking up BDSM, and searching for torture-related porn and childlike related porn. Most of these searches we can't even mention. The dead giveaway was the over 200 searches related to active and known serial killers, Long Island serial killer updates, Gilgo Beach murders, as well as searches for, specifically, each woman of the Gilgo Four. Credit card records shows that the murders happened when his wife and family was out of town, matching flight receipts to possible murder dates of the victims. In January 2024, he was charged with the murder of the 4th victim, as DNA puts him at the scene of that crime as well. As this is still an ongoing case, we are legally bound to say that Rex Heuermann is the alleged killer. He might have allegedly been responsible for these crimes. In America, we are innocent until proven guilty. Although 4 bodies can be linked to Rex, there are still over a dozen other bodies found along the beach. Some may be attributed to him, while others may not. But one thing is for sure, the person responsible for these heinous acts must be held accountable and pay for their crimes to the fullest extent of the law.
Guys, you know the drill. Comment, share, like, subscribe. Subscribe, very important.
Selfie time.
Selfie time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah! Can you smile?
That is.